What's going on YouTube? Rylan here in the garage gym, and this is one of these videos where I definitely screwed up. I made a mistake on this one, and I'm going to tell you why and what I recommend you do instead. So stay tuned. All right, welcome back, and today we're talking about steel maces, specifically the Shoulder Rok from Kabuki. And I want to throw a shout out to Chris Duffin at Kabuki for basically inventing this type of shoulder steel mace, if you want to call it. These things have been around a long time. There's a lot of history there. I'm not going to get into that. If you want to look it up, you can check it out on Wikipedia, Google, actually even on Kabuki's page. They talk about steel maces, the history of the training. But the one that Chris developed is very unique. And first off, let's talk about the path that I took first. And that was being cheap. And of course, being cheap and being I went on Amazon and saw these right here. So I've got one of them in front of me. This particular one is from a company called Synergy, but I've also bought them from companies like Yes for All. You're all basically your generic Amazon brands. They all pretty much copy each other. They're all made in the same Chinese factory, and they just stamp their name on the end, or in this case, they just put a sticker on the end of the mace right there. It tells you how much it weighs and the brand. So I started off with these, and I bought, all in total, I bought 4 of these over the first course of setting up our gym. And what I found is that they worked quite well. When I first started using them, I was a big fan. I'm a big fan of the shoulder mace or steel mace movement and the exercises. I've got a bad left shoulder, and this has really helped my shoulders. However, recently, I think about a month and a half ago, I went to Kabuki and bought this guy right here. And let's talk about what I found. So by switching out the Amazon brand steel maces and going to this Kabuki steel mace right here, just before we get into the actual specs and differences, I'll measure it all out and tell you the differences. Huge difference in how it works. And I was pretty surprised. I was very hesitant to spend the money on one of these initially. You can buy the Amazon ones from between $30 and say $100 for one of those. This guy right here, I'll throw up a picture of my receipt for what I paid for it. This was actually a blem, and I think it was around $186 or something like that, shipped to my house. And as for a blemish, I couldn't find really anything wrong with it. It was looked great to me. I didn't see any issues with it. Plus, once you start using your equipment, any type of little scratches or stuff like that really doesn't bother me. If you can buy a Kabuki blemish, I mean, you're going to save some money, and to me, it's well worth it because, like I said, once you use it, whether it's a bar or one of these steel maces or whatever it is, it doesn't really matter. You're going to put some scratches on it. That's the whole point of buying equipment, is to use it and scratch it up and actually, train. I know sometimes we get caught up on Instagram, and I'm kind of the opposite. I want to use the equipment. I want to beat it up and see what it's actually like to use. If it gets beat up in the process, that's just part of the deal. So I ended up buying this guy right here from Kabuki, and I've got it in the clear zinc. Normally, I'm not a fan of zinc in general normally, but I have to say Kabuki's zinc is very thin, and it's a very nice coating. I'm a huge fan of this coating, and that's saying a lot because I'm not a big fan of zinc in, say, Rogue's barbells. I'll never recommend it there. The knurling on this is awesome. It's, I would say, about equivalent to, say, an Ohio bar. It's not extremely sharp on your hands, and it's really not supposed to be. When you're using a shoulder mace or steel mace, there's a lot of movement involved, so the last thing you want to do is tear your hands up. There's also not a ton of heavy gripping going on. It's all about balance and technique. This is not one of those things where you're going to be gripping the hell out of this thing and trying to hold on for dear life. You're really focusing on technique, light weights, and then slowly working your way up in terms of weight. So to start off with, just the Steel Mace here, the Shoulder Rok weighs 8 pounds. Now that's with no weight added to it at all. So I recommend that as a good starting point. I actually started with one of these in a 5 pound and, worked on that for a little while till I got the basic technique down, and then moved up to 7, 10, and then 15 and go from there. The really nice advantage of this Shoulder Rok from Kabuki is you buy this once. This is one of those things you buy it once, you cry once, because you can infinitely add more weight to this. And I'll show you in a second how we do that, but it is such a great design to being able to add weight as you progress up. So the problem with the Amazon ones, just one of the issues that I found, and there's several issues, is you need to keep buying more of these. So let's talk about price for a second. If you are into this for about 186 bucks or 190, something like that, depending on if you got on sale or not, and you need, you want to replace it, or you want to buy the Amazon ones, you're looking at buying 4 or 5 of these, and these add up really quickly. You're going to be spending $250 or more on these Amazon Steel Maces, which in my opinion are way inferior to the Kabuki Shoulder Rok. So now, that's in terms of cost. You're really not saving anything by going with the Amazon ones. That was a big mistake that I made. So let's talk about, we talked about knurling a little bit on this. Let's talk about knurling real quick on the Amazon ones. The knurling on these is garbage. It is just like some of the worst knurling I've ever seen, and it's consistently the same on all 4 of these. And I've got them from, like I said, different brands. It's just a really light stamp. I'll show you some pictures in the B-roll. It is light, and it's not really much for knurling. It's, like I said, it's garbage. It's not even worth talking about in terms of that. When you have this knurling here, which you can really feel, this is legit knurling. So let's talk about the actual diameter of the bar itself. Yeah, we'll do it in millimeters, because I think that's going to be a little more realistic to what we typically see when we're talking about barbells and stuff. So the diameter on this one's 40 millimeters. So your Amazon brand ones are all going to be fairly consistently fatter in terms of the diameter. Now the diameter on the Kabuki is 29 millimeters, and that's the same as pretty much every power bar in the industry. And in my opinion, this feels so much better when you're using it compared to this one. It's not even close. And anyone that owns one of these and owns one of these, I'm sure you're looking at a video and going, yeah, 100%, you can concur to that. So let's talk about how we load the weight on this, and I'll tell you about that in a second. All right, so how do you load the weight on the Kabuki Shoulder Rok? It's really, really easy. There's basically a knurled nut right here that's got a coarse thread on it for a 2-inch diameter area here to put your standard Olympic plate. So any standard Olympic plate works on this. That's a great idea. Chris came up with an awesome idea with this. Instead of using 1-inch plates, it works with any 2-inch plate. So I happen to have some American barbell Olympic plates, rubber coated, and these are in a 2.5. So you can put a 5, a 10, whatever you want to do. I like the smaller diameter plates just to give you a little more space when you're swinging it around. Not really necessary, but for me, I think it's a little bit nicer. So you pull the nut off the end here, set it aside, grab your plate. I mean, this is basic stuff. You guys know this. And put it on, put your nut back down over the shaft, and tighten it up. It's really simple. Now, done deal. That's on there. Now we had the ability to add more weight. And you could add probably 3 of these plates, I would say, without an issue. Again, when you're using these, You don't need to go really heavy. It's not about pressing big weight with this. It's about technique and working your way up. So take it slow. You want to really master the technique first. Now, this brings me to another point here, is when you're looking at picking your finish for your Shoulder Rok, bear in mind you're going to be slipping this nut right here, this guy, up and down and scratching and banging up this coating. So I wouldn't get too worried about having a fancy coating or anything that's going to look super splashy, because it's going to get scratched up really quickly just from moving this nut up and down. It is what it is. So just expect that you're going to end up, putting some light scratches on the actual shaft of it. It doesn't hurt it. It's fine. But this is not something that you're going to want to, try to keep like mint. It's not going to just stay mint condition for pictures or anything like that. You're going to use this thing, you're going to scratch it up, and that's what it's made to do. So it's a really nice piece. It's really well balanced. And another thing that makes it different than the Amazon ones is the actual length of it. And this, so it's 29 millimeters diameter shaft where the knurling is, and it's 48, so 4 feet long, versus this is a 10-pound Amazon one, versus 40 inches long. So it's 8 inches longer, and it makes a big difference. Between the diameter of the shaft and the length makes a huge difference. It is night and day when you're using these things. The first time I used this, it was like, okay, yeah, I definitely screwed up. I should have bought this first. Big mistake. And I want to get that out to everybody out there. I have no affiliation with Kabuki whatsoever. I don't talk to them. They don't talk to me. Everything, there's no reason for me to sell you this thing other than I'm just telling you it works better. And I want you to save your money, buy one of these, and save all those Amazon ones. Don't buy them. It's not worth it. Really isn't. Now, if you're not a huge fan or you want to look at other options, there are some smaller companies out there that do make these type of steel maces with the adjustable end. They're very similar to this. I have priced some of them out, and you're looking at about $300 to $400 to buy from one of those smaller companies. They're handmade. They're really nice. They're nice quality. When I looked at them, they were all sold out at the time, and I don't remember the names of the companies. I'm sorry, but there are other options out there. But for the money, bang for your buck, you cannot beat this right here. And take it from me, this does work. The Shoulder Rok does work. It does help your shoulders. I use it religiously as a warm-up for bench and a warm-up for shoulder day. And I've been doing that for probably, well, of course, with these ones, but I've been doing it with some sort of steel mace for at least 6 months, and it does make a difference. It feels great. Remember to alternate, going from one side, switch your grip, go to the other side, because you're going to hit your shoulders different with the mobility. And yeah, so that's my quick little review on the Shoulder Rok here. Great tool. Like I said, if you can pick one up on one of their blemish sales, it's well worth doing. If not, pay regular price. I think it's the difference at 10%. Pay regular price. It's worth every dollar. I highly recommend it. So yeah, check it out, and hope you enjoyed that quick little review there. Just trying to give you a little tip on mistakes that I made, and don't buy these. They're junk. All right. See ya. Have a good one.